Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Please do subscribe or give me a thumbs up for the video. I'm going to talk to you today about the kit that I use for weddings. As some of you will know, I'm a wedding videographer and filmmaker, and I shoot about 25-30 weddings a year normally. That number's becoming a bit less, a bit more corporate now, but I thought it'd be useful to run through the kit that I take to a wedding, a typical wedding. I've tried to reduce my kit down to one bag, which I've managed to do. So I'm going to run through that. We're going to get each of these out in a moment and just have a little look through each one. I've got the Sony Z90 there, which we'll talk about in a moment. There's two Sony A7M3s, various lenses on them. Some Sennheiser microphones here, which connect to the main Z90 camera. Underneath those are some Tascam DC-10s, which are awesome. There's about 4 or 5 of those in there. So that's basically the sort of section there for audio, if you like. And we'll look at these cameras in turn. Underneath here, a couple of Zoom ones, which I use for backup recording, some headphones, some various filters. At the bottom of there is a Sennheiser handheld microphone, which I use for sort of diary room. This is awesome. We'll have a look at that later. It's a little LED light, which some of you will be familiar with. That's the top part to that camera. In here is the Sony, I have a feeling it's the X300. Yeah, X300, which I use as a third camera, as a sort of final safe cutaway shot. Saved my life on occasions. And there's a power brick there to give it energy. Microphone, which we'll talk about as well in a moment, and then there's a couple of spare lenses. But let's have a look at each of these now individually, and let's start, and I'll transfer, because I'm actually shooting this with my FS7. Let's start, and I'll transfer to one of the Sony A7M3s. Okay, so this is really the sort of go-to camera, if you like, in my kit bag. It's the Sony A7M3 Mark III, and the lens on this camera is the G Master 24-70 2.8. It's an absolutely beautiful camera, beautiful lens, gives some absolutely lovely shots, and it is definitely my go-to camera. Pretty much this lens stays on this camera all day long. I do have two of these. The second one, which we're shooting with right now, is actually the one that's used on the gimbal for the entire day, so that just stays on the gimbal for the shots there. So I will do a separate video with settings on how I set the camera up, but definitely my sort of favorite camera in a long time. I used to have the A7S Mark II. The autofocus on this, not that I use autofocus on this particular camera a lot, but on the one on the gimbal, the autofocus on this particular camera model, the A7M3, is just incredible. And so that is the main camera that I tend to use most of the day. And you'll see a link to one should you wish to buy it. Costs roughly, I think about £1,700 for the body now. And the lens, this particular lens, is about the same, about £1,700, £1,800. But an absolutely awesome piece of kit. But I'm just going to take you through another camera, which might be surprising because most videographers tend to shoot with just DSLRs nowadays. And I've done that on occasions, but I really do miss the focal length that you can get from a traditional camcorder. So okay, the next camera in my kit bag is this, which is a Sony Z90. It actually comes with another part to it, so let's just drop that on as well. This is the top handle, and it just slides in a couple of screws that lock that handle into place. And because of the interface shoe, it actually means that that now connects all of those, this external mic and the XLR set, microphone inputs are all connected automatically to the camera. Look at the size of that, and it's an absolutely fantastic camera. I don't think it's brilliant in low light personally, although I've heard other people review it and say that they think it is. But for outdoors and for, well lit sort of churches and civil services. It is incredible. I actually bought this for a specific corporate job. I was lucky enough to do some filming abroad for a rally, and I bought this particular camera because it's got shutter speeds of 250 frames a second in HD, and I wanted some really good slow-mo stuff of the rally that we filmed, so that's why I bought this camera. I then, like most videographers, went over to 2 of the DSLR cameras for shooting weddings. But I must admit, I just found myself missing the focal length that this sort of camera gives you, without having to change lenses. And for the ceremony and for the speeches, I don't really need huge shallow depth of field. This camera does give you depth of field, surprisingly, even though it's not a full frame sensor by any means. But what's more important to me, I think, is to be able to get a variety of frame shots at a ceremony and speeches particularly. The rest of the day, DSLRs all the way. But during the ceremony and during the speeches, which are set pieces, I just quite like the idea of being able to fill the frame with a wide shot of the entire church, or from the same camera in the same camera position, have a close-up shot of the ring going on to the bride's finger. So with this camera you're able to do it. I can't remember the exact figures. I have a feeling it's something like 18 to 435, the focal length. I can't remember exactly, but it's huge, and it's just something that you just can't get with mirrorless cameras unless you take a huge bag full of big lenses. And during the speeches, of course, one of the other benefits, and during the ceremony, is that I can monitor the audio on this. So for the speeches, a couple of Sennheisers go on the top of this, and I'm monitoring the audio from the groom and the father of the bride, let's say. So always now in my kit bag, and wouldn't be without it really. As I say, it gets used less and less, and is now literally only used for the ceremony and for the speeches. And just folds down to next to nothing to go back into your kit bag really. So a great addition, I think, to anybody's wedding setup. Okay, so let's talk audio. One of the things I like about using the Sony Z90, of course, is you can have professional audio, and so I'll use at least one of these, usually 2, for the speeches certainly. So the groom will have a Sennheiser pack in his jacket pocket with the microphone and the receiver on the Z90, which means I can monitor the audio, I can adjust the audio levels on the fly, and the audio quality through this setup is just far superior to anything else in my view that you'll get. Everybody else gets one of these, which is a Tascam DC-10, and these are really great. I mean, I know a lot of videographers are moving over to these Sony, what's the product name on this? TX650, which a lot of videographers have moved over to. And I like it. I've got just the one, and I use it as an emergency microphone. So if, for example, somebody decides to speak that wasn't scheduled to speak, then I'll quickly drop this on them. There was a wedding recently where there was a Pour in the Sands event, and the lady walked in the back, so I was able just to stick this onto her blouse quickly, and I knew I had reasonable audio. The reason why I don't love these and use them for everything, and I know there are videographers that have got half a dozen of these and just stick them on everybody, is one, I've had a couple fall off. The clip on the back I don't think is particularly strong, and the audio from it I don't think is excellent quality. It's okay, but it's not excellent quality. It's not a patch in my view as to the audio you get from the DC-10. So that's an emergency. I'll use the Sennheisers wherever I can for the ceremony and for the speeches, and then anybody else gets a DC-10 put on them. I hope that is DC-10 now. I've said DC-10 friggin' hundreds of times in this video, and I bet it's not. Oh, DR-10. Oh shit. every time I've mentioned DC10, I meant DR-10C. And then finally, as far as audio goes, I've also got a couple of these, which are the very trusty Zoom H1s, you know, 1 AA battery, sits on a little tripod there on the top table, 2 of those as a backup only. I can't remember the last time I went to it, ever used it, but when you're filming weddings, it's always better to have it and not use it than come back to the edit and wish you had something you didn't have. So that's pretty much, as far as audio goes, that's pretty much what I do. Okay, the next camera in my kit bag is this little beauty. It's the Sony, I'm going to get this right this time. There will be links to all of these, by the way, underneath the video, so do feel free to click on those and help support the channel by doing that if you would. Is the FDR X300. This is a lovely little camera. This is the second one I've had. I had a very early model of this. But I use this at every wedding. It's a 3rd camera angle. It's a safe cutaway if you like, or 4th angle nowadays. I tend to use 4 cameras at weddings. For ceremonies, it'll go at the back of the room. It gives you a lovely wide shot. It's not too fish-eyed, a little bit, but not too much. And it sits there with this power pack that keeps it powered for like something like 10 hours or so. It operates off the phone app, so it's easy to set up and get going. And it's just a very safe cutaway. So at a church wedding or a civil service, it's at the back of the room with a wide shot. And then for the speeches, it's usually behind the top table as a reverse angle really, so that when the groom has a big round of applause, then I'm able to cut to that angle to show everybody applauding or laughing or whatever. So a real nice addition to the kit bag, and you know, has saved my life on occasions when it shouldn't have really, but there we are. Something else to mention as far as audio goes, which I forgot to mention on the A7 III. The audio on these cameras, you know, isn't bad. It's scratch audio. It's not really professional audio quality by any means, mostly because of the built-in microphone quality. The preamps and amps in here are pretty good actually. But sometimes, you know, somebody will say something at a wedding that you want to pick up on these cameras if you're using them all of the time. And so most people have got a Rode on there, but the only problem with those I found was a bit bulky. You've got to remember to switch them on unless you go for the really top end one, which is massive. Also, you can't really use them on gimbals because they tend to, in my experience, tend to throw the balance out of the gimbal quite a lot. It becomes very top heavy. And this little microphone, which is a Sony product, which is the XYST1M. Just rolls off the tongue, that, doesn't it? That one just slips on the top there. And then when you switch the camera on, the microphone's all automatically switched on. There's no batteries in it. You don't need to remember to switch it on. It's always on. It's small enough that it doesn't, it's got a little rubber mount there, so it's sort of isolated a bit from movements of the camera and noise on the camera. The difference between the audio, and I will perhaps, you know, let me know in the comments if you'd like me to review any of this kit in more detail. And if I did that for this particular microphone, you would see the difference in the audio. I could do a comparison, but it really is definitely worth the, you know, it's about 90 quid. It's not a huge amount. But the audio then, once you get that audio from anybody that's talking around you in this camera, you can use that audio quite comfortably. It's really good. You don't have to do anything with it in post, in fact. So yeah, real good addition. And of course, the beauty of, not that I would use it on this setup on the gimbal, because this lens is too heavy for the gimbal, but on the camera I'm shooting on, which has got the much smaller f4 24-70, which sits on the gimbal all day long. One of those on the top doesn't really affect the balance of the gimbal whatsoever. It's light enough and it's sort of over the sort of center of the camera, so it doesn't have any effect on the balance in my view. So definitely worthwhile checking that out. And again, links are below for that as well. So then as far as lenses go, well, other than the lenses that I've got, so you've seen the lens already on the A7 III, which is the Sony G Master 2.8. But this other lens is the only other one I've got in my kit bag for weddings, and this is the Samyang. It's the 50mm 1.4 FE lens, so full frame lens, but really good price. So that's an excellent lens worth looking into for sure. And then finally, lighting. This little LED light is made by Aperture ALMX. pretty distinctive. It's like full metal body. It's got like these fin things on the back. Whether that's supposed to be cooling or not, I don't know, but really looks awesome. Couple of shades that go over the front, diffusers, which click on magnetically. There's also another sort of diffuser which attaches through Velcro on the sides. The light at this is going to really cock this shot up, no doubt, but the light that this throws out is really bright. You know, that's going to be well overexposed now because it's not on auto exposure, so sorry about that. Rechargeable battery, lasts about an hour. Really nice piece of kit. You can also adjust the white balance on it. You can make it warmer if you want, or give it more sort of white light. So a really good piece of kit. Battery lasts about an hour, as I say. So there we are, that's about it for this video. Hope you enjoyed having a quick look through the bag and what I tend to carry with me at weddings. Hope you found that useful. Please do subscribe, please like the video. If you would like any more reviews of some of those products a bit more in depth, maybe looking through the settings on my A7 III, etc., then do let me know in the comments. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.